So our presentation is on oral and nonverbal communication. So oral communication is the process of expressing information or ideas through word and mouth. It is the ability to talk with others and to give and exchange information, such as providing explanations or asking questions. So there are different types of oral communication. For example, there's whispering, which is speaking in an extremely quiet or soft-spoken tone of voice. There's also shouting, which is a loud tone of voice. This usually occurs when a person is angry or they're trying to communicate with someone who is far away from them. There is also mumbling, which is speaking in a quieter voice that's kind of unclear and difficult to understand. This tends to be used when someone is embarrassed or nervous. And then there's whining, which is verbally pouting or complaining with a long or high-pitched tone to show uneasiness or discontent. So, um, it's important to be aware of which type that you're using, especially if you're going to be giving a presentation, because if you're using mumbling or whispering, your audience isn't going to be able to understand what you're saying. So there are different types of situations that involve oral communication. For example, there's face-to-face contact, which is verbal communication that's used the majority of the time, and this is usually the easiest and most clear way of communicating with others. There's also telephone calls, which is a very convenient way that people can verbally communicate to each other without the requirement of being in the same place with them. And then there's also presentations, which is an oral communication that occurs so that the speaker can express their emotion or information that they are trying to present to their audience. And then there's also nonverbal communication, which is communicating without the use of the spoken language. So this can be facial expressions, gestures, body positions to communicate your tone or feelings to another individual. So there's different types of nonverbal communication. For example, there's waving your hand, and this can be a way that you can greet someone or say hello or goodbye. There's also facial expressions, which is a natural way for someone to communicate with each other. This can mean happiness if you're smiling, or sadness if you're frowning. There's also clapping your hands, which is usually done to show applause or appreciation for something that's just been done. And then there's also hugging, which is a way of communicating compassion or caring towards another individual. So it's important to be aware of different cultures when you're communicating through nonverbal communication. Throughout the world, there are different meanings for the same type of commonly used nonverbal communication. So it's important to have a clear understanding of what you're communicating to another individual and how that individual may perceive that message. So, for example, a thumbs up in the United States may mean good job, but in the Middle East, that is actually a very offensive action towards them. So it's also important to be aware of what situation you're in, because a different context of the same nonverbal communication could lead to confusion or make someone offended. And then here are some of the works that we used.